Young, Exclus. Yeah, real shit, true story. Look, wars of the soul. If I would've never picked up that book, then the story couldn't be told. I get writer's block, sometimes I get stuck trying to write while I'm locked up. But the pigs wanna see me here till I age old. Look, let me tell you about a young nigga named Michael, raised by a single mother. Daddy was an alcoholic, so he always brought drama. He used to beat his mama, but Michael couldn't remember, he was too young to speak. His daddy fled his home when he was only 3, left his mama all alone, started selling drugs and doing PCP. Lost contact but sent a check every week. He kept doing that till Michael turned 16. His mama started selling pussy just so they could eat. And young Michael started roaming around in these streets. And his daddy's name was lingering by the dope boys on the block selling D. They told Michael he couldn't live up to B like his daddy because he wasn't a G. Michael was confused and he felt angry. His daddy was never there to teach him how to be a man or raise a family. He started hanging on the block, even started smoking weed. And eventually, he started slinging D. Pants started sagging with a heat tucked underneath. By the time Michael turned 17, he was deep in the streets. But he was lonely, the D boys told him he was getting money. And since he was down, then the time is now. He had to be a G. Young Michael felt welcome in this harsh reality, since he never really had a good family. So it wasn't really hard for him to choose. He asked the dope boys what he had to do. So they told Michael all he had to do was take this gun, let down the window and shoot at this drug dealer who wouldn't come through. Rule number 1, if you don't know him, don't shoot. They could be the feds or even related to you. But all Michael knew was that he was this old dude. So he grabbed the gun and said he had something to prove. Michael and the D boys hopped in the minivan, peeled off quick, left smoke in the air. After a decent drive, Michael's heart started feeling sore. He didn't know why and focused on what he came for. Then they saw the man's car parked at a local liquor store. So they hit the block a couple times, maybe 3 or maybe 4. But the last time they saw the man leaving the store, 3 bags in his hand, walking towards his car. By the time the man finally made it to the car, he had his bags on the ground, reached in his right pocket, started digging around. Then they creeped up on him in that minivan. Michael loaded up the gun with his bare hand. One of the D boys let down the window saying, "Karma is a bitch," and Michael started spraying. Sparks and shells flying, Michael shot the man. Then he fell to the ground, from his head blood ran. He got shot once in his chest, 2 times in his head. But they peeled off, wasted no time at all, assuming that the man was dead and the police was on call. And it turns out the man was dead, but they was already gone. The D boys told Michael he was down with the cause, and that he had to lay low and keep quiet in the streets. So Michael agreed and they started calling him Mike G. They said he earned it and that he was a true G. So they hurried up and dropped Michael off at home. His mama was passed out, so he ran up to his room. Then he locked the door and started feeling dumb. He felt so stupid and then his heart started feeling numb. He even ran to the bathroom, started throwing up. He was feeling paranoid, so he kept rolling blunts. And he fell asleep on the bathroom floor. When the morning came, he was still on the floor. His mama woke him up, she was knocking on his door. She said it smelled like weed, but she was going to the store. Michael said okay, and again he locked his door. He looked out his window, saw his mom pull off in the car. He saw the D boys on the block as normal, so he put on some clothes and headed for the front door. Then he told the D boys that he couldn't sleep at all. He said he wanted out because he was too paranoid. Then they told him, "Calm down, Mike G. You overreacting, man. Just take this weed. And when you run out, come back to see me. And keep the G code if you see the police." So Michael took the weed and then he fled the scene. He got back to his room and started rolling up his green. After a couple blunts, he started to daydream about shooting that man in that gruesome scene. Then he started thinking if he had a family, his son or his daughter gotta experience a tragedy. They gotta grow up just like him, without a daddy. Then he looked out his window, saw his mama pulling up. So he hid the weed and finished rolling up his blunt. Then he ran downstairs and met his mom at the door. She instantly started crying, then she fell to the floor. Michael asked what's wrong, and then she said, "I just talked to your grandma and she said your father dead." Michael felt lost, so he asked why. He never met his father, so how the fuck did he die? Michael shook his head, and then his mama said he got shot last night, once in the chest, 2 times in his head. Michael ran to his room, crying and praying. Then the thought crossed his mind, those bullets had his fingerprints. So he grabbed his weed and he grabbed his gun. Then he opened up his window, he was about to run. But before he left, he wrote a note to his mom saying he had a lot of cash that he saved up. Then he wrote where it was and told her how much. Then he said, I love you, and left a note on his bed. He hopped out his window with his gun in his hand.